Hey YouTube, this is Tom at TM Aquatics, and I hope everyone's doing great. It's been probably 6 or 7 months since I've uploaded my last video here on the YouTube platform. To be honest, I just needed to take a break from YouTube and pretty much all social media, and it felt great. During that time, however, a lot of people have been reaching out, sending me emails, private messages, asking if things are okay, and to be honest, things couldn't be better. I've also had a lot of people asking about what we're doing here in the fish room, what we're breeding, what we have available. So I thought this would be a good time to jump back onto YouTube, show you everything we have new here in the fish room, what we've been breeding, and what we currently have available. So anyways, I do hope you stick around and check this one out. All right, YouTube, before I take you around the fish room and show you everything that's going on here and everything that's new, I first want to give a big shout out and say thank you to each and every one of you that is stopping by my channel or watching one of my videos for the first time. I also want to take this opportunity and explain to you what you're going to find here at TM Aquatics and also what you're not going to find. What you're going to find is that I'm just an average hobbyist, no different than you, with a mid-sized fish room of about 35 or 36 fish tanks. This is a breeding for profit fish room with a focus on exotic plecos and Corydoras. I'm not talking about bushy-nosed plecos and albino cories. I'm talking about L134s, L260s, L397, Corydoras equus, Corydoras suci, and fish like that. Now, what you're not going to find here at TM Aquatics is me constantly pushing products, promotions, or Patreon. You get enough of that on other channels. You don't need it here as well. Now, I will talk about the fish that I have available. That's a whole nother thing since this is a breeding for profit fish room. Anyways, it's my hope that I can provide you some useful information so that when I'm successful, it can help you be successful in your fish room as well. Now, with that out of the way, we've got a lot to cover, so I do hope you stick around, and let's get started. All right, YouTube, we're going to go ahead and start out with this 75-gallon tank out in my rec room. There's really not a heck of a lot going on with this tank, so I am trying to determine what I want to do with this tank, maybe convert it into an orange laser Corydoras breeding project, maybe stock it full of a bunch of Honeycomb Catfish and just have more of a display tank. I really don't know. What I have in here currently, and the reason I'm talking about it is because I have made a change since the last videos that I made. Now, I did add a few of my leftover ditherfish from some other tanks as I switched them over. There's some cherry barbs in here, some praecox rainbow, some juvenile rainbows, and then a couple swordtails in here that were my son's fish that I was watching and I guess permanently inherited. But this is where I have my wild-caught group of 12 Corydoras sucis, but I also added a group of 15 Corydoras orange lasers. I had an extraordinary amount of credit at one of my fish stores, and he had some nice looking orange lasers and decided to cash in some of my credit and pick up some orange lasers, even though my brother's breeding orange lasers. But anyways, there's a couple of the Corydoras suci, real shy fish. Sadly, the Corydoras orange lasers are just as shy. They have matured enough to where they have had a couple spawns, not a lot. Really hard to find the eggs in here with all that Java moss, really overgrown. But I do have anywhere, I don't know, 12 to 15 Corydoras orange lasers growing out in the fish room. But those are a new addition here at the at TM Aquatics, and that's why I wanted to talk about this tank, and that's enough. So let's move on. So also out here in the rec room, this is my 120-gallon tank. This is the largest tank that I currently keep. I'm not one that keeps large tanks. I like to keep smaller tanks, and my focus is on breeding. But this tank here, it used to be a discus tank. Then I had some big red severums in there, but I've now put in what I call my super colony of L134 leopard frog plecos. And I didn't bring a flashlight out here, but I do have 27 L134s in this tank, and these are all F1s, meaning they came from wild-caught parents. And really good news, though, they started spawning for me not too long ago. I got my, well, I shouldn't say spawning, they had a single spawn. I got a single spawn with 10 juveniles out of it, and those are the first L134s that I've had in the past year because my original wild-caught group has shut down. Now sadly, the female that spawned those eggs and produced those fry for me, she got fatally wounded in the trapping. The male was pretty aggressive, and she never recovered from her wounds. I tried desperately, and unfortunately it got the best of her, and she is no longer here in this tank. So that's really unfortunate, but we do have a bunch of other females that will fill that spot and fill that role. Hopefully we'll get some more spawning, but just really glad to get the spawn that I did, and unfortunate as it was with the female. But in any case, this is a change since I was last on YouTube. That is just a super colony of L134s. Let's head back to the fish room. All right, YouTube, so we're back here in the fish room. I have the fish room lights off. A lot of the fish aren't really used to the camera in front of them, so they get a little shy and a little bashful. But up here in this top 20-gallon long, this is a bare bottom tank, and these are the newest addition here at TM Aquatics. These are Corydoras Kanakis, and these came from Eric Bodrock at All Oddball Aquatics out in Pennsylvania. And Eric is a very reputable person in the Corydoras circles. Now, there was a mix-up on shipping, and I was supposed to receive 10 of these. And what I like about the Corydoras Kanakis, they're just a real simple spotted pattern. And they're also, their common name is the Morse code Corydoras, with that line across their midsection around where their lateral line is. It kind of looks like a series of dots and dashes, hence the name Morse code Corydoras. Now, there was a ship fished incorrectly back there. You might be able to see it. It had some black on the leading edge of the dorsal fin, and that is not a characteristic of the Corydoras Kanakis. And I sent Eric a photo, and he confirmed that somehow he misbagged a CW109 in the mix, and we only ended up with 9 Kanakis and 1 Corydoras CW109. There it is, right there. You can see clearly a different fish, but it is what it is. Things like that can happen, and we still have 9 beautiful Kanakis. Now I will have to separate them because they're from the same lineage. I can't allow that CW109 to stay with the Kanakis, because they will crossbreed, and that is not desirable in the catfish circles. So anyways, Corydoras Kanakis, newest addition here at TM Aquatics. Now down here, this is my group of my breeding group of Corydoras Duplicarius. Now normally they're out in front and banging the glass, and not a shy Corydoras at all, but of course, since I have the camera out, they're going to sit and hide back there in the back of the tank. But this fish is often confused with the Corydoras Adolphi. Duplicarius are a much better looking fish in my humble opinion, simply because they have a much deeper black back line. The Corydoras Adolphis have a much thinner black stripe across their back, and the Adolphis are much deeper and more significant, in my opinion, making them stand out much nicer than a Corydoras Adolphi. Now these are an easier Corydoras to breed. They do well in groups of 6 or more, like all Corydoras, but just absolutely beautiful fish. I don't have any available right now. I did have to reset my breeding colony, and this group hasn't really started producing to where I can make any available to you, but it's just a matter of time. But these are the Corydoras Duplicarius. Now down here, this is a 29-gallon grow-out tank. No one ever said that a grow-out tank needs to be ugly or boring, but I do have some red coral pencil fish in here that I grew out, and I do have some of these available on the Get Gills website. We have a lot more in a different tank, but I just put them in here for a little bit of action and a little bit of life. But this is actually a grow-out tank for a bunch of honeycomb catfish. I have actually 30 or 40 honeycomb catfish, and you can just kind of see them sticking out everywhere. There's a couple here, a couple there, over here, back around the filter. Now this group, for whatever reason, this group doesn't like to come out when the lights are on at all, even when I feed. I do have another group that does not hesitate to come out and feed when the lights are on, and maybe we can get them, coax them out here, and I can show you that here in a little bit, depending on the length of this video. But I do have these honeycomb catfish available on the Get Gills website. I think they run, I don't know, around 14-15 bucks a piece. And these catfish are easily sexable. So if you're interested in a new breeding project with these honeycomb catfish, if you do pick them up, just send me a note that you would like X amount of males, X amount of females. I'm not actually, let me retract that. I will send you an even number of males to female ratio. I'm not going to send you 6 females and 2 males. I'm not going to do that, because I'd easily run out of females that way, and that wouldn't be fair to everybody else. But if you want a pair or 2 pair, just let me know, and I will sex them, and you can have your own nice little breeding project. Now, you can get away with maybe 1 pair in a 10-gallon tank, but really I wouldn't suggest anything less than a 20-gallon. They are very strong, active swimmers, so they do like a little bit of water to swim around, and a longer tank is always appreciated as well. But honeycomb catfish, really a neat little fish. All right, so this fish right here, this is the Scleromy Barbados. They're more of a more primitive looking member of the Corydoras family. And Scleromy Barbados, what really makes them unique is they do get quite a bit larger than most of your Corydoras fish. The males can reach 3 3/4 inches, maybe get as big as 4 inches. And what I really like about this fish is just the fact that it's a colder water fish. It doesn't do well in warmer temps. There is a heater in this tank, but the heater's not turned on or plugged in. I do struggle sometimes keeping this tank cool enough. Right now we're sitting at about 71 degrees, but they are perfectly fine and happy in temperatures ranging from well, they can go all the way down to 60, but really 65 to 70, 71, 72 is kind of the sweet spot for them. So if you have a cold water tank or a cold water fish room, or you want a breeding project, a Corydoras or a catfish that doesn't require higher temps, Scleromy Barbados. Now, they do, because of their size, they do need a longer tank. I don't recommend keeping them in really anything smaller than like a 36-inch tank. This is a 48-inch 40 breeder, or 40 long rather. The males, unlike other Corydoras types catfish, the males of this species, they do become territorial, and they will fight and spar. Now, this group has only recently started spawning from me. I've had 3 spawns so far. They've been really good spawns. Up here in this breeder box, I think there's a dozen. This is the first spawn, actually the first and second spawn. First spawn was, I don't know, 15 eggs, and the second spawn was maybe 10. I think I only ended up with 10 or 15 fry here in this fry box, but a couple different sizes. But these are Scleromy Barbados fry. And then last week, about a week ago or so, I did an impromptu live stream, and I was picking a bunch of Barbados eggs out of this tank, and they were kind of all stacked in that back corner, and I hatched them out, and they are down in this little 2.5 gallon tank. And I don't know how well you're going to see them. You can see them all lined up over there. There's a few down there. I just look for the little orange bellies full of live baby brine shrimp, but we had a really good hatch. I think I picked about 50 eggs, 55 eggs, and we have over 40 fry here in this little 2.5 gallon tank. So overall, we had a really good hatch rate, so I'm really happy with that. They were feeding on Hikari first bites and micro worms for the first 5-6 days, and I just started introducing live baby brine shrimp to them last night, and they're scooping that up with no problem at all. So I'll transition them exclusively to live baby brine shrimp, at least for the next 2-3 weeks anyways. But these are Scleromy Barbados. I won't have any available for a couple months. These guys here will be available eventually, but just really a neat little fish. Now, up here on my grow out rack, I do have quite a few of the Lamprologus ocellatus gold. These are a Lake Tanganyika shell dweller, a smaller cichlid. Males rarely really exceed 2 inches, females around 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. I did get rid of the breeding adults. I've transitioned away from breeding this this species. I still love this this fish. Just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful little shell dweller with that golden color, and they'll get a little pink and purple iridescent on the sides when the light hits them just right. But these are Lamprologus ocellatus gold. I have plenty of these available on the Get Gills website. I think in total I probably have, I think there's like 5 or 6 in this tank and 20 some over here. I need to do a better job of balancing that out, but in all I think we have anywhere, I'm going to say, between 24 to 30 of these available. So if you're looking to scoop some of these up, you know, head over to Get Gills, check out my storefront. Lamprologus ocellatus gold, just a wonderful little shell dweller from Lake Tanganyika. Very, very small fish with a very, very large personality. All right, so down here, this is our spawn of the L134 leopard frog plecos that we had out of the new super colony, if you will. These guys are doing great, growing nicely. There's 10 of them total in here. Their first food is, I always put a catappa leaf in here, and usually one of their first foods is the biofilm that would grow on a catappa leaf or similar type, leaf or wood or botanical. And it's believed that that biofilm kind of helps jumpstart their digestive system. Since then, I've also been feeding them some Eboaquaristic growth paste and also some Eboaquaristic spirulina paste. And I've started to feed them some mussel pellets and some live baby brine shrimp, although I do like to stay away from live baby brine shrimp if possible, because I have had small plecos like this get unhatched eggs or baby brine shrimp egg shells bound up in their intestinal tract, and it has created some blockages. So I try to avoid live foods now with the little plecos, but when I have a little extra, I'll make sure they're cleaned up real nice and drop them in there, and they just absolutely chow down on them. Also in this 40 breeder, this is where I have a bunch of L260s. You can just see, I think there's like 30 of them in here, and they just, for whatever reason, they just love to pile in this cave. I don't know, there's probably, 15 in this one cave. And then there's none here, usually one over here and one in there. And then there's usually a few, sorry my light's acting up on me, there's a few that usually hang out under the slate. Now these are all juveniles. I did lose quite a few fish in my adult colony due to equipment failure, and then the adults that did survive, the alpha male, the male that my primary breeding male ended up killing with bad traps, 2 of my last 2 females. So I had to really basically restart my L260 project, and I'm not going to be selling any of these. I'm going to be keeping them, growing them out, and I'd like to eventually move these L260 into a 75-gallon tank and give them their own larger home and have a super colony of L260s. But that's what we have going down here. The L134s and the L260s. Up in this tank here, this is a grow out tank for Corydoras. I have some Corydoras orange lasers, Corydoras bozemanii, and Corydoras Axle Rod Eye in here. All of these are available. I think there's like 10 orange lasers. I have 5 Corydoras bozemanii available right now, with about another 50 or 60 coming. And these guys are going to be extremely shy, so we'll try to get a picture of the adult bozemanii, or I'll drop a picture down here in the video, but they don't like the camera. This is the first time I'm doing this, and they're wondering what the heck this device is, so I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. Now in this tank, they're not out, but there was one darting there. I do have some older Corydoras Axle Rod Eye. I think I have like 12 available. I'll show you the adults. They're going to be easier to find. I do have a bunch of daisy blue rice fish. I grow these out. They're a dither fish. They make a great dither fish for the Corydoras because they could handle the cooler temperatures without any issue. Not a real high maintenance fish. In here I have about 20 Corydoras bozemanii growing out. These are probably nearly the size that they would be available for sale. I think there's, I don't know, 20, 22, something like that, Corydoras bozemanii in there. Over here, I do have some more Corydoras Duplicarius. Now, there's 7 of them in here. Originally, I was going to split the group and just keep one breeding group. I do have these listed on Get Gills, I believe. I might remove them, though, because I'm thinking about keeping these 7 as well. I believe it's 2 female and 5 males. But I might keep the second group. And I guess whichever group starts firing first as far as spawning, maybe I'll just keep and then get rid of the other one, because I really need these guys to start producing for me again, the Duplicarius, because there's a lot of people that like and want these fish. Over here we have more green lasers, and then I actually have some Axle Rod Eye in here, and then I do have a lone CW49 fry in there. These are the Corydoras CW049 Black Diamond Corydoras. These guys have been a little tough for me to breed. I don't have the pH down to where it needs to be. Every once in a while I'll get a spawn and I pick the eggs. Most of them go bad, but in this case, up here I was surprised to see a little CW49 fry in here, so at least one made it. When I pick Corydoras eggs, because I have limited amount of tanks and quite a few different species of Corydoras, I will just put the eggs and hatch them out in the same container, let them grow out in the same container, and then when they get older and I can identify what they are, I'll separate them out. So anyways, there's might be a couple orange lasers in here, green lasers, Corydoras Axle Rod Eye, and CW49. Going back down to the CW49 tank, I do have quite a few red coral pencilfish that I spawned here in the fish room. I think we ended up spawning, I don't know, 50, 55 or so. I have sold some in local auction. They just make a beautiful display. I do have some of them listed on Get Gills. I'm starting to rethink that just because I love the look of this big school. Now, if you want to breed red coral pencilfish, my suggestion is a single pair, or maybe two females and 1 male. But really what worked for me is a single pair in a very heavily planted tank. And just let them be. Put in some Java moss like this, put in some floating plants, and just let them be. And the female, or the male, will coax the female down into the Java moss to spawn. She'll deposit her eggs, and eventually you'll start seeing these little twigs appear. And the juveniles are very camouflaged, probably to avoid predation, and they'll just kind of float around like they're a little twig or something. They don't really resemble anything like the adults do. And I just started seeing more appear and more appear, and I started netting them out, and then there were so many I just left them in here, and these have all grown up with the original adult pair here in the fish tank. But I think it just makes a beautiful display, the red coral pencilfish. Now their colors are a little faded because this temperature in this tank is cooler, kept cooler for the Corydoras. If I warm this temperature up a little bit, I think the temp right now is like 75. If I warmed it up to 78, 79, they'd color up. And then of course if I started feeding like a little more krill flake or tetracolor granules, they'd fire right up. But just an absolutely beautiful fish. Anyways, enough on this particular tank, or this rack. I should say down here we have more rice fish, but more green lasers growing out. I think there's like, I don't know, 40 in here. Green laser Corydoras. Another 30 or so green lasers growing out over here. They're not a sellable size yet. So I did put some on Get Gills, and I sold out really quick. I mean really quick. And I have a few more people waiting for them, although I don't keep waiting lists. I'll just say I do not keep waiting lists. I don't have time for that. I do have a few people that want them, so just got to keep your eyes open on Get Gills. Hopefully I'll be able to post some more in like another couple weeks. These guys over here are getting pretty darn close. Anyways, that's the green lasers. Now over here in this tank, I have a bunch of L397 plecos. The L397 is a panaculus, meaning it's a wood eater, but they're really a vegetarian type diet. They do need wood in their diet, and I do always recommend that you keep several different types of wood. Mopani wood, and this I forget what this stuff here is called. That's not the best type of wood. I think this is apple, and I had some cherry wood in here, and they just scarfed it down. But the juveniles just have a real nice, vivid, black and orange banding. Just an absolutely stunning little pleco. Not an easy pleco to find. They're very hard to source, and I do have some of these available on Get Gills right now. They are a little more expensive, and I do require overnight shipping with Corydoras and plecos. It's not fair to the fish to stress them out for 2 days, 3 days, especially given the cost of these fish. But these are L397s. I think I probably have like 50 or 60 remaining in here. And so if you're interested, check out the Get Gills or send me a note and we'll figure something out. But these are L397s. I did have a spawn last week, and unfortunate, the water hardness wasn't, I didn't have the water hard enough, and the eggs kind of melted off, but could use another spawn. But these are L397 plecos. All right, now here's a 397 tank. Up above is my little work table that I use back here in the fish room, and I have this 2.5 gallon tank on here, and in here I have a bunch of Corydoras venezuelanus. When I did that impromptu live stream last week or so, I was picking these Corydoras eggs. After I picked the Scleromy Barbados eggs, I picked the Corydoras, and there were well over 100 eggs. I think, anywhere from 100 to 110 anyways. And they were just piled on top of each other, just, 5 layers deep. I wasn't sure what the hatch rate would be, because I wasn't able to really separate those eggs and space them out. So I just threw them in a vase or a pickle jar and tumbled them with a little methylene blue and RO water, and we had an awesome hatch. I probably had a 90% hatch rate. Now I did lose a few when I moved them from the pickle jar into this 2.5 gallon tank, and I probably am down to, 75, maybe 80, I'm thinking. But you can see their little bellies are orange or pink. They've been started feeding on live baby brine shrimp. So usually when I get little Corydoras to eat baby brine shrimp, we're in the clear. And it's just a matter of time before they're, a nice, 1 inch fish looking for a new home. So, but these are Corydoras venezuelanus, commonly referred to in the hobby as the orange Venezuelan. Now I do have some more up here in this tank. These guys are a little older. I have 20 of them up here growing out. These guys are, still pretty small. They're about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch. They're not quite ready for new homes yet. Another 2-3 weeks and these guys will be ready as well. So they're not currently listed on the Get Gills, but if you want to pre-order them and have them placed on hold, just send me an email and we'll be able to work something out. But these are Corydoras venezuelanus, or the common name orange Venezuelan. Again, I think there's a total of 20 in here. Now, what I really like about this Corydoras is they're not shy at all. These Corydoras will be out in the front, banging the glass, swimming around. Nothing really seems to bother them. They're very hardy, easy to breed, and they're a nice looking fish. Now, the lighting in this tank really doesn't do them justice, because I don't have the fish room lights on per se, and you can't really see that nice orange coloration on their body, but maybe that's helping a little bit. You can see that nice orange coloration and that center spot, kind of an iridescent greenish color. Just absolutely beautiful little fish. So anyways, Corydoras venezuelanus, and yeah, enough on that. So on this rack, I guess I'll show you the Corydoras Axle Rod Eye. Now these fish have a tendency to run and hide when I'm in front of the tank. Now they're typically not a real shy fish. They're usually out in the front, but when I hold the camera up like this, they run for it. So, but these are Corydoras Axle Rod Eye. I do have some of these available, as mentioned. Just a real simple, standard looking Cory with that dark black lateral line, that line across the midsection, kind of following the lateral line, and a thinner line above and a thinner line below. And between the midline and the lower line, they kind of have a green iridescent. You can kind of see that even with this crappy iPhone camera. You can kind of see that coming through. But really just a neat little Corydoras. Again, easy to clean, groups of 6 or more, and real easy to spawn. Now if we look up here, you can see right there, there's an egg in the on the silicone in that corner there. And over here, there's a few more eggs. I might pick them, I might not. What I also like about this Cory is they don't seem to really predate on the eggs or the juveniles. So if those eggs hatch in this tank, there's a good probability that they're going to make it, because I'm always picking adults out of the, or juveniles out of this tank. So you wouldn't really have to worry about having separate grow out tanks and things like that for these guys. They would do just fine, and their population would grow if they're kept in a tank by themselves. Now next to them, these guys haven't been breeding yet, but I just want to show them off because they're just probably one of my favorite Corydoras right now in the fish room. And these are Corydoras concolors. Now they're not an expensive Cory, and they can be an easier Cory to find. These guys haven't started spawning. Their common name is the Slate Cory, but what I just like about them is just their simplicity. There's no black markings, no spots, no stripes, just that slate colored head gradually changing to an orange tail. And when you see a group of these swimming together, it's just a phenomenal sight. But I do hope to get this group breeding. I have 10 of them in here. What I also like about these fish, the males will get just a really neat, tall dorsal fin. I don't know if this is a male or female. This particular species can be a little more challenging to sex because both the males and females kind of have a stocky body, if you will. A lot of Corys, the males are a little more streamlined and easier to sex, and the females are more stocky. But in this particular fish, the males are also a very stocky catfish. So anyways, just wanted to show them because I just think they're a beautiful fish, but not an expensive fish. I think I paid, I don't know, $8-9 a fish or something like that. But I just think they're absolutely just a stunning Corydoras. All right, so directly below the Corydoras concolor, this is a 40-gallon breeder, and this is where I keep my Corydoras bozemanii. Now this is not a real common Corydoras in the hobby. They're just a beautiful little Corydoras. A lot of people say they resemble the Corydoras hasbrosus with their markings, and their shapes are very similar, but these fish get significantly larger than a dwarf Cory. I do see how some people say they resemble the Corydoras hasbrosus with their patterns. They'll get kind of some gold coloration on their head, but just really a nice streamlined body. The females will get larger than the males, but not an easy Corydoras to find in the hobby. You're probably never going to see these in your local fish store, and if you have, consider yourself fortunate because they're just not a real common Corydoras yet. So they are a little more on the pricey side because of their rarity, and a lot of people, believe it or not, have a difficult time breeding them. I've not had any challenge breeding this particular fish. I found that they'll only spawn in these mops here. At least my group of adults will only spawn in the mops. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of glare and a lot of reflection. This is not a gallery. This is a breeding for profit fish room. And my flashlight batteries are almost dead too. But they spawned in these spawning mops here a few days ago, and I think there might be a couple eggs right there center frame. You can see in the reflection. But I did not pick the eggs this time because I don't know how well they're going to sell. And I'm kind of out of tank space at the moment for this particular fish. I do have a breeder box here full of about 30, I'm guessing there's 30 Corydoras bozemanii in here. I do have about another 15 bozemanii down in this breeder box. And then up in this grow out tank we have another 20, but they're an unproven commodity here. I'm not sure how well they'll sell, especially at the price. Like I said, they run a little bit more than your other more common Corydoras. So I'm not going to spawn anymore until I get a better idea of how in demand they are and how people want, how they sell, I guess. But just, I think they're a phenomenal Cory, and I'll drop a couple pictures here as well. Somebody on Facebook posted some just beautiful pictures, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop them just to show you what their potential is. And then down here, these are my green lasers. This is where I keep my adult group of green lasers, and I have been selling just a ton of them. I've already sold probably 100 this year. I do have another 150 or so growing out. One thing you got to know about the green lasers is they are a shy fish. There are a few juveniles in here, but what I like about the lasers, they will not predate on the juveniles or the eggs. And I had probably 100 juveniles growing out in this tank that I recently removed. And all those eggs were missed when they spawned. I'll pick all the eggs that I see, but I missed a bunch, and there were probably 100 juveniles of various sizes growing out with the parents. But that's one thing I like about the lasers is they are not worried, and they don't focus on the fry, even the little tiny freshly new hatched. So I always have fry in this tank, but anyways, enough on the green lasers. Again, I do have some available right now. There's beautiful green lasers up here. I don't know if I showed those earlier. I think I did, but just a beautiful Corydoras. Most of these are already spoken for. I got a couple orders shipping out next week, but we do have more growing out, as I showed earlier, down here and up here. There's some more, and yeah, there's a lot of green lasers. Enough to go around. Anyways, I was going to show the this tank here is a grow out with more honeycomb catfish. And this is where I have my adult Corydoras venezuelanus. They're hiding down here, but just because this video is getting a little lengthy, I think we'll hold off. I did post a short video here recently on my YouTube channel showing how this tank just explodes with life and activity when you drop some frozen bloodworms in here. If you haven't watched that, do go check that out, and you'll see these little honeycomb catfish just come out and have their own little feeding frenzy. But they are such a neat little fish. I would love to have a 75-gallon tank with about 30, 40, maybe 50 of these, and it is something I'm considering with that 75-gallon tank out in the rec room. But they do like a little bit warmer waters, than the catfish I'm currently keeping out there. That's why they're not out there right now. They like their temperatures around 78 to 80 degrees, but just really a cool little catfish. And I got to get a better flashlight. Anyways, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. All right, YouTube. Well, there you have it. I haven't checked out what the total time is on this video, but I suspect it probably went a little longer than I had hoped. But there are a lot of new things here. We have a lot of fish available, and have a few new breeding projects from the last time that we posted a video here on YouTube. Anyways, with that being said, hopefully I was able to share something new with you, something maybe you picked up some new tips or ideas or whatnot. And I do appreciate everybody taking time out of your schedule to watch one of my videos. But like always, I appreciate everyone stopping by, and until the next time, we'll catch y'all later.